Hi, it's Lyle from Made by Marley. Do you struggle with layering paint? Do you think you're just covering it all back up and wonder what the point is? Are you not sure about how to apply layered paint? How many layers? How to get it to make it look like it's genuinely faded or distressed? This video is for you. This is what we're doing this week. Okay. Sorry, Martin was making me laugh. Right. This is the piece for today. It's a little writing desk. Is it good quality? No, not really. Is it got all the parts that I like? Yes, it has. Are we going to make this beautiful? We sure are. Now, today's video is going to be talking about layering. Do you ever look at other people's furniture and go, oh, I just love the rich colours. I love the way that it's layered. How do you layer? If you've never really layered before, what's the point of it? Most of it's all covered up. It's not really that. It's just when you layer another colour on top of another colour, obviously it changes the colour of the colour that goes on top. So there's lots of reasons why layering really brings a lot of interest to furniture. So it's got a little cute drawer here. It's got long legs. I like the shape of the legs. This part is up here wood. It is pretty dinged. It's got some holes, some chips, some bits and pieces on it, and a whole load of stuff that, you know, is not the most desirable. But this is my joy for today. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put Hornflower on my mix mat, which is the chocolatey brown for those that have not got good vision, and Athenian black, which is a really nice rich black. Okay, I've got two different kinds of brushes, not because I'm going to be using two. It's just that I thought one would get in the smaller parts, one would get in the other. This is our first layer going on. Now, I am going to be layering, interestingly enough, anywhere where this is grey, I'm going to be making it, the eventual colour is going to be red. And in here as well, I'm going to paint it in here. The wooden part and the back part is going to be a sort of really light turquoisey blue. So probably, I reckon at the end I want the top, this part in here to be sort of florons. I think that I looked at colours today and I thought these two will work nicely. So when I'm doing the layers, I want to think about where it's going to be darker when I put my layer over the top. So obviously it's going to be darker under here because that's going to be your natural shadow, isn't it? This just, I think, I'm going to get Martin to look at it. There's not a hole where it goes all the way through. It's just been either screwed into the piece. So I will get that removed. So your natural shadows, put them where you think they're going to be. That's always a kind of helpful sort of tip. Now let's go in with the browns. And there's no real sort of kind of rhyme or reason to this. You can do a wee bit of a cheeky blend if you want, or just put it on in streaks. It doesn't really matter at this stage. You know, you don't need a huge amount of skill to get the beginning of what you're looking for down. Now you can do sort of kind of maybe a darker on the inside of each leg. Marty, sorry, I'm jumping around.
That's all right. It's not a big piece.
Put some dark. I know it isn't.
I had the whole piece in camera, which is unusual.
To be honest with you, people, I'm kind of was fancying a little bit of a break. So I thought I'll pick a smaller piece, but that doesn't mean to say it'll take me any less time. Because sometimes what I do with the smaller ones is I really go for it because I think, well, it's just a small little piece, so you can never tell. I will do a video.
Yeah, this will end up as a 2.5-hour video.
Well, I'm hoping it doesn't. I'm hoping it doesn't. Right, so yeah, you can see me just putting, kind of mixing and matching my browns and my darks together. And there's, as I said, for this first layer, there's no real rhyme or reason. I think because I'm wanting to I want some parts kind of really a bit darker. Just kind of blend that a bit. And so I'm going to get on now and I'm going to make sure, and I'm only going to do this one coat of the brown. I'm going to come back when this is all brown. I'm thinking on camera. I'm thinking about this up here because I can go away and do it all at once. Now this is when you think about your layers. So this is maybe a good thing that I'm here. So this is the top. This is the layer that's going to be seen. And this is the layer that's going to be seen on here. So what can we put under here to make this interesting? So are you talking to yourself, Martin?
I was having. They'll know why I was talking to myself. I lost control of my colour, light levels a little
Oh
bit.
no, not control. Don't want you doing that.
I was trying to adjust it and it went the wrong way completely. I was like, ah!
I'm just trying to think of good colours that I can put underneath here. So I'm thinking now. Oh, sorry, I'm now going off shot and everything. I'm looking for this colour, which I don't have in a squeezy. This is Arles. It's an Annie Sloan paint. It's this sort of colour, kind of that colour. I think this will be good for the wood. You always have to make sure with Annie Sloan chalk paint or any chalk paint that if you use it from the can, you give it a really good start and shake. Shake it, obviously hold the top of the lid, just in cases. This colour, I'm going to be putting, I just keep picking up more brushes and losing them, up on top of here, on this part. So it's going to be this colour. But what am I going to mix this with? Now, this is the secret to layering. You're thinking, but none of these colours are going to be what it's going to end up being. But it's what they'll do. Now, see these parts that I'm not painting in? I want them to look like that. That's a good way of layering and aging. Not over painting what you're doing. I'm not going to do up in this side because I want to do that with the brown and the black. But you get the gist. This is going to have another layer on top of it, this part. But this is so I'm going to do the brown and the black on where it's grey. And the Arles, this colour, here and at the back of there. That was really difficult for me to explain. Oh, and the top of here as well. Okay, I'm exhausted. I think I'd run a marathon. Okay, so this is how it looks. On cheaper, smaller pieces of furniture, I tend to do things a little bit differently because you want to give it a little bit of an upsell. So obviously I'm doing the sides, I've done the sides of the drawer in the Arles, the inside, and I've kept the same sort of distress. I haven't painted all of it. You can see it from up here, and the front is just brown. It was just to let you see that I had done that too. So let's pop that back in. So you can see what it looks like. I said to Martin, isn't it funny I've actually made this look uglier? Right, so now I have Emperor Silk, which is a nice red colour, yeah? And I did have a minute ago, I've got sea sponge. Now, you can put your paint on anyway. You could, like I've got a palette knife here, you could apply it with a palette knife and then smoosh it with, I think that's what I'm going to do, but you need a bit of water and you'll need a dry clean cloth. So, bearing in mind where you've put your colours underneath, you don't want to eradicate these either. But the more water you add, it'll give a different variation of colour to the thicker paint. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. So let's start with up in here. So I'm going to apply it with a palette knife because our aim is to cover this piece of furniture. Give it a wee squish of water. A wee squish. And let's start putting the paint on. Now I want to kind of keep some of this around the edges to make it look like it's a bit worn. And really, what you're doing is you're just kind of painting it with a sponge. Now, I wouldn't layer it on too thick. You can come back and put another layer on and it'll be brighter the next time round. So you've got variations of red. On the next time round, when I go over the top of this, we'll be adding a little bit of either Tilton, which is yellow, or Barcelona orange. Either of those two colours will brighten up the red. They'll take it from a different tone of red. Like lipstick. If you ever see a really dark lipstick, it contains more blue. It's the darker shade. The orangier lipsticks have more of yellows and oranges in it. That's how I always think about it. Think about lipstick. That's how, if you're thinking of a red lipstick. I can't really wear red lipstick. It always makes me look a little bit like, Anyway, that's just a side note. So this is what I'm going to be doing. Why am I not painting it on with a paintbrush? Well, it has the propensity to be quite heavy. So you don't want it too heavy either. So I think this is kind of a nice way to get enough pigment onto the furniture without overloading it. This time round, I think I'm going to wet my sponge. I think that's maybe a better a better way of dealing with it. I want to try and keep this edge down here like it's worn, so let's get that up in here. And all I'm going to do is just build this up in layers, and that is a secret to distressing. And that you can watch any furniture artist, and every furniture artist has a different way. And if you've been watching my channel for a long time, you'll know I've got multiple different ways, but I think this is a really easy way to understand the concept of distressing and layers. I think this is a way that I think, if you don't go overboard too quickly, you don't add too many different colours, you're just kind of going with the flow, seeing where it all lands. I still quite like that little dark edge down the bottom. We've got a bit of everything, because that way we can have the richness. The red obviously gets richer because it's on the brown and the black, so it makes it a richer colour. When I add a lighter colour to my red, that's a different colour entirely of the red tones to put over the top. So that's another layer of distress. And when we get to the next shade of red, then we'll talk about where we're going to apply that, because there's certain parts I think when you start that you like, because I quite like this patch here, and I like how it's much more, the colour's much more concentrated here. I always, if you've been watching me for a long time, you'll know I always like things that frame a corner. That darker patch, thicker paint for me really works. It's the same on this side actually, which I quite like, and I'm still kind of keeping this, but this looks a little bit manufactured. And how do you stop your layering looking unnatural? You need to kind of really play around with it to make it look more natural. It actually did wear that way. So you know what I'm doing now. I'm applying, I'll do a little bit of the leg just so you're aware of the concept. Not putting too much paint on it, as I said, because the Anisoun paint is amazing, but it's really highly pigmented. So, a little bit can go a very long way with colour. So let's just see if we can. Got to remember the insides of your legs and up inside here as well. That's quite important, because in case your furniture is tipped upside down. I have a fear of people tipping my furniture upside down. I think it's a healthy fear, because you want your furniture to be at its best all of the time. Let's keep this edge here with the dark on it, so I'll bring it in a little bit at this side. And I'm not actually putting any more paint on my sponge at this point. Do you see how this is bringing up really nice layers of paint? And it's just a sponge and applied with a palette knife. Palette knife application, I can't sing its praises high enough. If you apply, I'll show you, because you'll see it. I know I've gone off on a tangent, Matt. Right, 2 different applications of paint. If you apply the paintbrush, this is what you're going to get. That's what a stroke of paint looks like with a paintbrush. If you apply your paint with a palette knife and do the same sort of thing, can you see the difference? One has marvelous texture, but if that was on something that wasn't water repellent, it would be one thick stroke of paint, because they apply paint differently. Paintbrushes are amazing, palette brushes are amazing, but sometimes if you don't want things to be too heavy and you're building up with layers, a palette knife is a good thing to have. Okay, going to get on to the red. We'll come back and we'll put the brighter shade of red on, then we'll work on the arrows, the yellowy colour. Okay, so on my mix mat, I added some of the red that I'd just been using to do the distress. And I put a little bit of the Tilton and the Barcelona orange together in this. Set this to the side, we might need it later. And I popped a dollop of it onto here, just to brighten up that red. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to add quite a bit of water. This amount should do the whole piece. You want it quite watery. Can you see how watery that is? At this point in time, I would probably change what I was going to put the paint on with, but because I used my sponge to mix it, I'm just going to use my sponge. Now, I can already see this is already going to be, it's going to be way too pigmented. You just need to make sure that there's tons on my sponge. Right, okay, and I've got a cloth here as well. So this is the brighter shades. And what you're going to start doing is you're going to start, this is a dip. Can you see where the sponge gives that dotty marks? We're not trying to do that. We're trying to now blend it differently.
I just want to get in on these dotty marks that you're pointing to.
See all these kind of like the texture that the sponge leaves is the same texture as the sponge. Whereas now we're trying to add different sort of texture to it. So we don't really want to, I'm only using the sponge as the applicator. I'm not actually wanting, if you know what I mean, the texture of the sponge. Oh, it's getting quite complicated this week, isn't it, Martin? I'm just making sure that I've got enough water on it. This is just going to brighten it up now and make it more red. Because believe it or not, this looks a bit gothic at the moment, but I'm going to be doing a sort of cottagecore piece. So country sort of cottage. So that's been kind of in a potting shed, left out to the elements. Something cute that was once in somebody's kitchen and it's worn over the years. That kind of look. Like the stuff in our house, Mary.
Easy peasy.
So that's the kind of look you're trying to go for.
I'm going to take it back 100 years and then bring it forward 60.
Be quiet.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. You could do it if you wanted.
Oh, I'm sure I could, yeah.
If you had the time, eh?
Yeah.
You don't have the time for that.
I tried that once.
It was great. People are still getting a whole load of... We still get comments on that every week, your video. This is just a matter of choice now, how far you go. Why am I doing this stage? Because it brightens it up and I want it a much brighter. I want it a much brighter red.
Depth as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't want the sort of sponge marks. So, I mean, maybe if you did have a cloth, another way you could do it is really saturate your cloth. And this is a cloth that's a little bit textured. Oh. And you could put some on your cloth and you could apply it that way. And then you're getting that different texture. I mean, that might work for you. But my sponge is saturated with this paint, so I really want to use it up. So I'm going to get on now, and I am going to give it a little bit more of another layer with the brighter red, just to kind of make it pop a little bit more. We'll decide whether we need any highlights or whether we need any more red on the next twirl round. I am going to be getting to a design at some point, but today is about layering, so I'm going to spend less time on the design and more time on the actual paint work, because how you lay your paint down, I say this all the time, especially if you were wanting to put a transfer on this, how you lay your paint down is really vitally important to how your piece looks at the end. It just is.
It's everything, isn't it?
It is. I'm not sure about, I'm still thinking my sponge is making it that is giving it a bit too much texture, but I can live with it. I'm just going to make sure I apply a wee bit more around here, make it a bit brighter. Because if it was under this ledge, it would wear less here, but it would wear more here because you would be leaning against here, but up the top here is a wee bit more protected, but it would wear round about the handle. So you have to think of the natural wear, and that is a real secret about, when I first started painting furniture, my things looked like cheetahs. They look like leopards because I put my distress on over the top of my colour, and I didn't really work in layers then because I didn't really think about it in the same way that I think about paint now, and I think that's just time. But here I am telling you straight away, right out the traps.
Yeah. Time travelling.
Yeah. We're back to that, Matt. I just asked Matt to do a job for me. I didn't think it was going to be very time consuming. And I thought, oh, I'll go and get him to do that and it won't take him very long.
I said, I'm sure we've got one of those. No, just do this.
I said, just a quick sand on that, Matt, and it'll be perfect. He's been out there for ages and he's wearing a really nice black polo neck. He's covered.
I'm now covered.
He's covered in bits of stuff.
Paper and things.
But I bet you feel really good for helping.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see how already that's brighter? Does it show up that it's brighter, Matty?
It does.
It does to my eye. I don't know if the camera always picks it up.
It does.
Right, I'm going to get on now and I'm going to brighten this bad boy up a bit. And then we are going to get to the parts that we've done with the arrows. Yeah, we are getting there, slowly but surely. Okay, so the mid colour, before we get to this colour, which is Provence, I want to put a little bit of Florence underneath, which is the dark turquoisey blue. And then we've got this sort of light, it's not quite turquoisey blue, but it's the light blue. I've got some down here in my mix mat, and really, to be honest with you, it's just the same process again. See these parts where I've missed out the paint? Try and avoid them if you can, because they'll add another part of dimension when we get into it a bit more. Now I can already see a lot more water on my sponge. I don't want this to be super dark. I just want to have it'll give it a little bit of dimension, and that way when we put the lighter colour on, we can kind of highlight the middle or wherever I think my design is going to go. I think my design's actually going to go from this edge back. Not all the way back, but from here to here. So the lighter part will be here and the darker areas will be around the edge. So it's always good to kind of know what you're doing. Today is a stamping project. For those that love stamping, you all always really like a bit of stamping. So that's what today is. And this is going to be eventually a sort of cottage core piece. So I'm going to get on because you're really not seeing anything that you haven't already seen when I did it with the red, and I'm going to do this with the blue. And then we'll come back and we'll put the light colours on top. Okay, so I've got the Florence now, which is the light blue that's going to go over the top. And what I'm doing here is I'm just making sure that it's nice and kind of wet so that it's not too heavy. As I said, we can go around with another layer. But I think probably what we'll do is more we put a lighter layer on the next time. So this is how it looks. Pretty ugly. Kept quite a lot of the bits of the arrows showing and some of the original wood. Again, it's not really this kind of texture I'm going for in this. So I'm kind of doing a dab and rub. Try and keep some of the, like especially around the edge, you want to keep a little bit of that turquoise and a little bit of the arrows in the mix. Why the Provence underneath it? Just to brighten it up and darken it up, and then I'll lighten it up with another colour, because you can see the difference between this paint that's on the arrows and this paint that is actually on the Provence, which is the turquoise. It changes the colour. That's why layers don't just give interest in texture. Layers also change your paint colour, and that's one of the kind of main things to remember. So what am I doing here? I'm just kind of doing a mix of both. I'm trying to keep some of those brown parts because I think they really, see if I can get around that without, I'm trying not to get my sleeve in the paint of my viscose shirt, Martin. Martin and I had an entertaining part of the day this morning when
I was getting a cuddle.
I wasn't going to tell them that. And
I was thinking, how you could explain?
Well, I don't know. I just was wondering. My brain was thinking.
And she said, "Am I suffocating you?"
And he said, "No, it's your viscose shirt." And I was like, A, what does he know about viscose? And B, it's chiffon. It came from Marks and Spencer's. Yeah. So
I didn't care. I was getting cuddles.
Oh dear, this is the wrong channel, man.
Oh yeah, that's our OnlyFans site.
Yeah. Stop. Stop it. Right, enough hilarity from you, Mr. Parsons. Now, what am I going to do with this part here? I think what I'm going to do is make sure I've got a lot more water.
I went too far, didn't I?
Slightly. People are out there thinking we do have that, and when we find that, we'll be looking for it.
I mean, I'm a bit of an exhibitionist, but not that much.
Right, okay. I hope that doesn't get us cancelled on YouTube.
Can you imagine?
Kill it, Barry. Kill it. Now, I'm going to have to build this up in layers, as you can see. And it's going to take a few layers. So I'm going to go around it once, like I'm doing, and then I'm going to go back around it again. And then we'll come back and I think we'll put some highlights on it. And then I think we're going to be pretty kind of ready for starting to plan out the design. The cottage core design that goes with a sort of cottagey vibe. That's what we're trying to aim for here. I want to try and keep the yellow down in the join there and the crease of the bit of furniture. you're not eradicating every part that you've put on. You're trying to keep it as much as you can. But make it look solid. It's hard. It's a kind of, we're trying to make it look solid, but you're trying to also not lose too much of the yellow underneath and keep some of the bits of the green, the darker green as well. Anyway, I'll get on and do that. Okay, so I think I want it a little bit darker. So I put some Florence and some Giverny onto my palette. And I am just going to add the water again. I need quite a lot. Give that a wee mix. Yeah, I think this is more what I had in mind. I think I've maybe went a little bit light.
Is it wrong that I just want to put my hand in there and make a big handprint?
Well, you can, man. Man, I think you're full of mischief today. Mischief. Right, okay, so let's see what this looks like. Yeah, I think this is more what I had envisaged. I think I was looking for something a little bit darker. Now, remember the layers, so you don't want to cover all your in this dark, just some of it, and the pattern wiping sort of. I quite like this sort of turquoisey part over here, so I'm going to try and keep that if I can. So I'm going to get on now and do this layer. Then we'll come back and we'll tidy up these edges and that back edge, and I'll show you how to do that. I'm jumping about, man, sorry. And then we'll get to thinking about what design we're going to be putting on it. Svenska Blue. This is the colour, just using the bottom of the can. It's very light. I'll put some on brush so you can see it's this sort of shade. What am I doing? I'm trying to put almost some highlights. I'm going to be putting some of that in the centre, and then I'm going to be darkening up the edges, just the tabletop. I've got a wet brush, I've got some paint on it, and I've got a cloth in my hand. After yesterday, I had to finish filming yesterday because obviously I had to go and get ready for my channel members live and things, so it didn't really go any further, but I thought I'll get back to all this today. You really need quite a lot of water and brush. I'm wondering whether doing something like this. I'm wearing just about as impractical shirt as I was wearing yesterday, but this one isn't viscose, Martin. This one's cotton.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Right. Just want to kind of, it's just got to look, that way I know what I'm looking for, but I haven't quite got it yet. But I think I'm getting there a little bit more now. I quite like this on top of this. I think I might do this kind of more over the top of this and then come back with my sort of darker shades. I think this is going to make me a little bit happier, because in theory the dark stuff should be round about the edges, but I'm just wanting to cover up some more of this. The thing is, I've got the blue in my head and I haven't quite got what I'm looking for yet. Do you ever have that? I think this is more, I keep thinking this is what I'm looking for, and then I go away and go, actually, do you know what, this isn't what I'm looking for. Just making sure that I get up in here. We're still coming back to fix these ugly sides that have got the blue on it. We'll get to that. Now, remember, you don't want it to look too streaky. You want it to look like it's the way it's happened. But sometimes when you do kind of layering paint on furniture, it can look a wee bit too much intentional, and you don't want that. You don't want it to look like it was intentionally done. You also don't want that messy look either, so you're skirting a fine line. Now, there. Now, the darker edges. I think the darker edges I'm going to be using, let me get it out here, Giverny, I think is what I'm going to be looking for this. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this up on, put that in there, put the Giverny on there. Again, a wet brush and my cloth. And let's get some of this shade in. Oh, this is definitely, this is more working towards what I thought I had kind of envisaged. Don't want too heavy. Remember, you're You're still trying to see the colours that you put on underneath. That's the kind of artistry about this. It's when a kind of how much is too much and how much makes it look just like a streaky mess. Yeah. I think the use of a cloth really can help. I'm just going to pop that over on top of the wet side because that's how I roll today. I'm going to add a little bit heavier there. And just, it's not a much mark difference, but I know it's a mark difference, and it's literally just darkening up these edges. And the good thing about going over the top of this when it was slightly damp is it's moving quite nicely because you want the movement. Yeah. Something I think like that. Yeah. Now I need to do this top part here. I'm just going to move my palette completely. I'm just putting more Giverny on my brush. I didn't put the Svenska blue up in here, so let's just kind of, again, I'm going to need a bit more water. That's my sort of highlighty part. And now I'm going to try and concentrate on just the Giverny by itself. Textures are important. They just are. And if I was to run my brush right in there, all those other colours like the turquoise and the Arles and the other colours that I've put underneath and the original brown would be lost. So you have to kind of be careful when you're using a brush because a brush very easy can cover that up. And that's not what you're trying to do here. Right, I think finally I'm happy with the state of the blue. Right, we're kind of good there. I'm going to just fix these sides off camera, come back and we'll fix here. And I've touched it a little bit here with my blue brush, so I want to just kind of fix that there before we proceed on to the top and start on the design work. This video is about layering paint for a distressed look that doesn't look too contrived. So we've done all of this. I still haven't fixed those parts. I'm going to show you that in a minute. We want to start making, so how many layers have we got on this so far? We've got 3, I think, on this one, but this is us kind of starting to finesse what we've done. So anywhere where there's like a groove. Now, this is where people fall foul of kind of aging and distressing and layering. You're going to get a small artist brush. Now, one of the best tools you can use, and don't worry about my shaky hands for this kind of thing, is your finger, right? You don't need to do it all the way along, just in some areas, and I've already done here, so you can see that this part's done. If I wanted to put a little bit on the bottom, just run it in with some water on your brown and bring that to that. That makes that pop out. I'll get up on my knees in a minute, and if you wanted to kind of age and just dirty over this edge, you can do that too. I mean, you can age with wax, but the Hornflower from Annie Sloan is such a really good one. Get it right down into there, and that really looks like it's been exposed to a number of years of getting a bit dirty. The sun has faded it. There's all many different reasons. This makes a difference to this already. It already looks aged. But let's focus on this area here, from about here, because whatever I do here, I will be repeating all of the red. Now, I want to now put another layer, and it sounds counterintuitive because you're now putting a dark layer over the red layer, and we've just put the red layer on, we've just brought the red layer out, but now you need to start finessing the where. So where are you going to, so the next layer you're going to put on, I kind of use kind of stiff, like little soft, like see these kind of paintbrushes, these nice ones, they're not good for what I'm wanting. I'm wanting something with a little bit of heft to it for this kind of job. This one here is the one that I was using for the red, and this one here is the one that I'm using for the dark, but I think it's got a little bit muddy. So let's start with the chocolate brown, which is the Hornflower, and let's just think about, now remember, your hand or a cloth is your friend, your finger. So first of all, I'm going to start with a mix of the black. Oh, sorry, Mary. I can't, my brush is quite long today, and I'm going to put that down in here. something a bit like that. There's a kind of crease there in the furniture, so that's a natural place where dirt would age it down that edge. Brush on the side and sweeping the paint onto the furniture and then rubbing it out. It gives it the best look when you're layering. And because I've got a mix of the brown and the black on my brush, now you don't want it to end up what just happened to me there. It looks like a straight line. Let's bring this side out. And this is layering to give it depth. You are now giving the legs of this furniture depth. You can keep it smooth like that, that's fine. But then if you want another bit of kind of age, bring it in a bit. Yeah, same here, bring it in a bit. You can have a right worn patch at this stage. I'm using probably predominantly more brown than black on this for the distress. I'm quite liking this. Let's just bring this out a little bit. Let's just accentuate this. And under here, as we discussed at the beginning, going to be quite dirty, quite dark. And maybe they didn't even bother to paint up in there. They did it a brush paint job. This has, in my imagination, in my story that I'm making up, this was a beautiful piece of cottagecore furniture that sat in the kitchen for a long time. And then what happened was they needed something in their pot and shed and they just brought it outside and it's just weathered, worn, bleached with the sun. It's been used. That's the vibe. Oh, I went and touched up with the blue there. Just bring that up a bit darker. I've still got blue in my brush. You don't want to be doing things like that, right? So.
Sorry about the binging. I should have put my phone on silent.
It's okay. It tells people you're popular, Martin. It's probably one of your children.
It'll be one of my children.
Who wants a lift?
Wanting something.
Wants something from you. It's only ever your children who want something from you. Right, I'm liking this. Let's just kind of bring this down. Now, I think what's happened here is I've got too mottled. If you think it's too mottled and it's beginning to look like a cheetah, put some red on your brush and just do that and get rid of it. It's still there, but it's not as much as it was. Yeah, let's just take that out as well. Now what you're going to do is you're going to get your red and you're going to highlight centres. You're going to pick parts that haven't worn as much. So let's get some red on here. Bring that in here. Maybe some red. And this is just the red from yesterday. Here. Now, at the moment that looks quite dark, but when it dries it'll blend right in. So there's your sort of highlights. This part here has got quite a lot of paint on it, so let's do this. You're not trying to eradicate what's underneath because that's worn. That's kind of mildewed with age. We're kind of keeping that part. We want a bit more highlight down here, but obviously I haven't done the low light yet. But let's highlight up in here. Just a little bit, not all of it. You don't have to cover the whole shape. And here. A lot of paint on my brush there, so let's move this around with my finger. This not only gives it texture, but it makes your furniture pop. And that is what you're trying to do. You want people to go, oh, look at that. Look at that. Look how that has been painted. Because furniture art is not just about all the fancy schmancy stuff that you can do to it. The paint job. And to be honest with you, in my peer group, your paint job is the most important thing really, how you use your paint, not how you apply to transfer. So if you get this bit licked, you can do it all. I'm kind of liking that, but I think I need this bit here, a little bit highlight. And all you're doing is bringing it all up into layers. There's a whole load of faffing about with this part, I mean, to be honest with you, but I'm the type of woman that's happy to faff around with it for quite a while. Can you see the difference between this section here, which we've put our lowlights around our edges, which is our shadowing, and we've put our highlights, which is the brighter red in the centres to make it pop. You can tell the difference between this part and this part. This part here has been done. When it dries like this. So I'm going to get on. I'm going to do the red now, and bring this out. I think this here could do a little bit more red. And all I'm doing is just doing that. Yeah, that kind of equals it out. I'm going to bring quite a dark patch along the top of the drawer. So let's just put this on here first. I'm moving between the browns and the blacks. I don't want that so nasty looking. Big swoopy kind of meaty brush. Now we're going to finesse it a little bit. And how I'm going to do that is I'm just dipping my finger in some water. It's a messy job. Now you don't want it to end up looking cloudy. That is not what you want to do. Now you're going to put your bright colours on. Am I explaining this right, Matt? It's quite difficult to explain, but there's a lot of steps to blending, to layering and distressing. There's a lot there, and depending on who you watch, you'll get a lot of different information. But I think probably watch as many people as you can and amalgamate what you think your style is going to be, how you want to do it.
Yeah.
And we're going to put a bit.
What speaks to you?
Yeah,
your style, your vibe.
Yeah, what your version is, and come up with.
If you like getting messy and painty hands,
well,
do what Lau does.
I think if you can feel it, it makes you feel so much better. There's an emotional connection for me between my paintbrush and my hands and my brain, and that's just me. I like this. See this part here? I'm just going to keep that. I'm just going to do that and maybe there. So kind of chip there. Quite like that. Let's see if I can recreate that here. Now I'm getting to the point where you're watching a whole load of paint happening when it's very boring. So, right, okay. I'm living my work. So I'll get on and do the reds and then we'll start. Oh, you want to see the repairs up here. So when you're really messily blending, but you want it to make sense again because you've got blues and different things on different areas. Oh, I don't know if my knee can take this today, but we'll try. When I get to the design work, I'll move on to a chair. So think about where the dark's going to go. So you don't have to be too...
Oh.
Martin, show them what you've just done. Martin just stood on the Giverny paint.
I stood on this and it goes.
And look, it goes there on my cupboard. Oh well.
Oops.
Giverny it is. I'll move that out of the way.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
Are your shoes okay? Because they're relatively new.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just my painty floor. I don't know why I bothered painting that floor so nicely, but although I did paint it distressed because I thought, you know, it's going to get a bit. So, right, so what I've done is I've put my brown in there. Now what I've got is I've got water on my paintbrush and I am going to whip it up over where the marks went, first of all. So we're going up like that and getting rid of those marks. And then we'll come back over with some red. I've touched it with the blue there. All you need to do is get some red on your brush. Anyway, I did these ones here where I touched it with the blue. Just do that over the top. Yeah, I covered them all up so you don't get a chance to see them, but that's all you do. Right, so let's get on with grunging this up. Now, the trick is, if you think it needs to go back down to red, down some of the areas, do that. So that it looks like it's been a worn line. Bring that down. Now I've went and touched that black, so I'm going to have to go in with my red brush. There. Now this is a little bit dark for me, so once that's dried, yeah, when we go to do up the top, I'll put a little bit of, we'll chip it in a little bit, chip it in. I'm trying to think what that would be. You know, move it in slightly. Again, we're back to the distressing, and I'm just going to, as I said, I'm just going to start distressing, highlight and low light in my areas, adding layers until I'm really happy with the red. Martin, is there any way you can show them around this side?
Just checking to make sure there's no tabs of paint that I'm going to stand on.
I did what I did down there. I've done my edges and filled them in, and I kept this pretty grungy and dirty looking. Done my edges. So this side is done. Brought my dark down. I just need to put my highlights on, which I've still got to do because right now it's kind of a little bit dotty spotty, but that's what I'm going to do next. So I'll get back to you once I've fixed all the sides and we're ready to start putting the design work onto the top. Okay, so we're onto the tabletop. The table had cracks in the wood and I've accentuated those as well with the brown, so, and right down to the back so that it all looks like it's, you know, boards. What you're going to need, I've got the Crackle, no, what is this called? Vintage Textures. I've got these two. I might use these at the end, so I'm going to sit those up there. I just got those out of my bin. Not the bin, my stamp bin. Leaves. It was handy because I had these all laid out for this project yesterday, but I had to do a live and I needed a lot of leaves, so I've got the leaves. So a selection of different leaves if you have them, but one leaf stamp will do just as well. These are from the Peony stamp and the Chrysanthemum stamp, and I think maybe the Sunflower stamp. This is from Lady Charlotte. It's a kind of seed pod head. Not sure what that is really. This is from Chrysanthemum. I don't think I'm going to use this one. I might do. This one's from Lady Charlotte. It's not one I use very often. It's got a bit of red paint on it. I thought this is from Autumn Harvest, I think. I've got this and I've got this apple as well. So maybe some apples. I'm thinking cottage core. This could do with a good clean, but that's a Sunflower stamp. And this is from the Peony stamp. I also have here, new from IOD, is the Garden Bouquet. I went and bought it because I thought it's always good to have more flowers in your laminate. So let's have a wee look at this. If you're an IOD lover, we'll give this a run out and we'll see what we think. Or if you're on the swither of buying this, then here we go. I'm going to show you what it's all about. Stick the masks down here. Let's have a wee look. So we've got hydrangeas, we've got daisies, we've got roses. That might be a dahlia, and I think that's a tulip, but we know I'm not good at identifying things, so don't come for me. Right, so let's kind of think of a sort of how I want this to go. Now, I said in the beginning that I wanted kind of leaves coming out and flowers going this way. So let's just kind of do a basic positioning, because what I'm actually going to do with this, because we've been so long at all of the, which is what the video is about, which is layering paint and distressing, that what I've done is I'm going to kind of fast forward some of this because you've seen me do these kind of things quite a lot, but this is just positioning first because I want a lot of leaves. Remember, it's a cottage core sort of design. I'm going to do the top of here as well, so let's just kind of get leaves on and see that looks quite nice like that. Now, I really am keen to put some of these apples. So let's do this. Something like that. Maybe I really would like this big one on. Let's see if that'll go there. But obviously we're going to need the leaves coming out from there now. See, this is going to take a little bit of mental gymnastics, but I want to get it right. So I think what I'll do, Martin, because poor you, I'm going to stop the camera, sort out my positioning, and then come back, and then that saves a whole load of you watching me do it. And I'll talk you through my positioning because this could go on forever and a day, couldn't it, Matty?
It could.
Matty's aware. If you've never got an IOD stamp before, when you buy them, they come on this hard sheet. I've done it both ways. I've kept them on the sheet and I've cut them off. I've taken them off the sheet, but as the years go by, I realise that it's probably better to keep them on this hard sheet. Just makes it easier when you go to use them. So you cut them out. I don't actually want roses, it's these I want. Like so, and I've said this a million times, cut off the sharp edges because they're really sore if they dig into you. Once you've got them to this stage, take a worn piece of sandpaper, nothing with too heavy a grit, and you are going this way, this way. And basically what you're doing is you're just giving the stamp a bit of tooth, a little bit of grip, so that when you ink it up, it'll repel. I quite often think when they're new, if you do not do this process, they'll repel the ink and it won't be such nice. Now we're going to be stamping, painting them, and then stamping them over again. So So Stamp It, Paint It, Stamp It method for this. And this is the cottage colory part that I'm doing. So once you've done that, that's you ready to rock and roll with that. I'm using black Stays On ink, which I've just charged my pad so it's ready to go. Why do I use Stays On? Because I think it's good. Right, no more needs to be said on that. So I'll go away, do my positioning, and we'll be back once I've organised that. I know it doesn't look like I've made sense of this, but I actually have. So I'm going to do this quite quickly. I'm going to just do this section here so you understand what I'm doing. So let's take the apples first. I've got the clear plastic down on my furniture so that I'm not stamping onto that. Never think, oh, I'll just have a quick stamp on the furniture. I mean, ask me how I know. You're just cutting corners. Now,
you think it's all going to be okay, and then, oops.
It's not. So, now, let's get this bad boy on first. And I think I want something like this. Now, this is Stamp It, Paint It, Stamp It. So I am more interested than round the edges because they're the parts we're going to paint in. We don't need the full stamp. It doesn't need to be perfect at this stage. It just needs to be on enough for me to be able to paint. So I think this is going to be here. Well, I don't think, I'm actually doing it. Doing that thing again, Martin. Right, so there's my apples. Now, I've got these leaves sitting to the side because I don't want a full leaf. I just want parts of the leaf. So I thought I would do something like this in here. Trying to make it as cottagey as I can. Now, when you do this, try and remember which stamp you used. Again, ask me how I know. Now, I'm going to put this, I'm scared to call them by their names because it's probably not, but I think it's a tulip, and I'm going to put it about here. And I can do something with the stem on the second pass. I'll paint down in here in green, and then I'll just hold this. I'll show you at the time. It's going to be too confusing if I try to explain it. Right, so this is our tulip going on. Fabulous. Now this big bunch of roses. I really just want it as cottagey and as kind of cute. The only problem is this is going to look quite perfect considering the rest isn't. So we're going to have to be kind of mindful when we paint this in because we want it to look quite distressed. It's not going to work out for us if it's too sharp. Now, want that up here. You get the drill. What I'm going to do in a minute is come in here with the leaves again and just alternate. If you've got more than one leaf, that means you can alternate them and they are different leaves. If you have anything like the hydrangea, which is up here, because I'm not using that one at the moment, has some nice leaves. So we could, maybe in a minute, maybe we could use that one there off of the side of there. It's just about kind of get it all together. But I'm not going to labour too much on this while I stamp this all out, and I'll just show you this hydrangea leaf, and then I'll go away and actually do it. And I'll get Martin to film me painting it. What am I painting it with? The same colours that are in my table, apart from the blue. I'm going to be doing it shades of red and the blacks to darken my red down. And I'm going to be doing Amsterdam green, which is dark racing green, with a little bit of Antibes green, which is a light bright appley green, and some white and some black. That's my colour palette. I'm trying to stick to the same thing. Do you see how it's all starting to kind of, you could do something again that's kind of clever, and you could have that leaf going on there like that. And maybe, so I'm getting giddy with it now. Let's try this one here. I did something naughty. I just pressed that down on the stamp, so it may be a little bit messy. Yeah. Right. Okay. You get the gist. This is gonna, and I'm going to, whatever flowers in there, I think it was maybe just some leaves on their own up inside there, because it's gonna flow around like that, and I'm going to do the top as well. So I'll get on and do that. Okay, I'm just going to talk you through the palette. I'm going to be using Emperor's Silk, which is red, Amsterdam green, which is the dark green, Antibes green, some black, and I need a little bit of white. And oh, hang on a minute. That's the sort of palette colours I'm going to be using. Today I'm going to mix these two for lots of various shades of green. If I want my red bright, I can use it as that like that, but I can add a little bit of dark as well. So I'm just going to keep it all this in the same sort of palette. So everybody's seen the Stamp It, Paint It, Stamp It, but just in case you haven't, all I'm going to do now is I'm literally going to paint in my stamps with all these varying colours. And then I'm just going to stamp over the top of it. So I'm going to get Martin now to film me on the other cameras so that we can speed all this up. So you're not missing anything. When I do Stamp It, Paint It, Stamp It, I kind of go slightly over the edge to eradicate that first line. It prevents that sort of ghosting that you get sometimes when you see Stamp It, Paint It, Stamp It done. So just slightly over. So I'm going to kind of do the daisies, all the sort of daisy ones I'm going to do white, and all the rest in shades of red, and just lots of different kinds of green. And we'll see how this all looks. You can never really tell until it's been stamped over the top, but I'll get on and do it. Okay, last stamp, and the cameras have caught me doing the whole, I think I'm going to have to stand up for this, caught me doing all of the rest of this, so we're good. And now I'm going to show you my next part. There's probably a little bit in the last footage that was shot, but I'll just show you what my intentions are. Now, one of the things about layering lots of paint is you can take layers away. Another reason for layering, although it isn't absolutely obvious when you do it, you can do that. So how do you do it? Well, you can do it many ways. You can use a wet cloth and wipe it back. What I'm going to do though is, I'm not going to do this part here because we've just stamped it. So I'm just going to move this out of the way and I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do. Now, I've got a 60 grit sandpaper, right? Okay, so it's quite heavy, but it's been used. So remember we put the arrows on it. Oh, there was a part as well when I was painting this that you'll see the white went under my mat and I trailed it along, so I just got rid of it again. It was no biggie. So now we're going to knock all this back. We want to knock it back because it looks too pristine, and if we're saying this is old, it would wear. So don't worry about the dust. That's just going to happen. I would probably wear a mask if you're going to do this. But can you see what's happening? Can you see the yellow? Just kind of give it a wee brush. Sorry, Matt, I'm brushing out the camera.
That's right.
But you have to go slow. That's slow, and don't go crazy. Just, you're sanding it to age it. So around the edges here, you can go a little bit more. It doesn't matter if it goes down to the actual wood either. That's all right. Because remember, things would chip. What I'm doing up here is I'm just basically taking. Now, if you don't like or want a lot of distress, you don't have to do this part, but I think it's in keeping with what we're doing. And we are talking about layering, so just need to get up in here in the corner, and then what I'll do is I'll brush it away. I just can't go any further than this apple. It should, hopefully, with a little bit of persuasion, bring out the yellow from underneath. Now, the more layers you do, and depending on how much sanding you do, it means that you can bring out layers. I mean, layering is, there's so many different concepts to layering and so many different ways to layer. Now, I'm just going to get all this off just to show you what it'll do is it'll mute everything back, and then you've not got, you can see the difference. This looks like it's been aged and this looks pristine. We're trying to reveal the yellow underneath in some areas. That is our plan. I've done the top here, so you can see it's already been done. What's to happen next? Obviously, I've got this side here to sand, but I don't want to sand until I know that the stays on and this is completely okay to do it. If you're ever worried about stays on, you can just put a heat tool over it and that'll kind of cure it, but I never have any problems, right? So this is how it looks now, and I'm loving this. I painted, I wasn't sure what knob I was going to put on this, what pool. What I did was I went through and I tried all different things, but I decided that if it was this kind of piece, it would just have something quite plain. So I've done it blue, I've rubbed some brown on it, I've aged it, and it's going to go in here. So that's going to happen. And the last thing that I've decided to do, and don't ask me why, it's just I stood back and I went, there's something here missing. It's missing a connection in some way. So I have here the red, a little bit of the Athenian black, and the brown. And what I'm going to do now is take a little bit of both of them, because I don't want this all solidly red. But again, I don't really want to paint it in either. So I'm just going to kind of do a little sort of band here with the red. You can take it as far up or as low down onto this, the next area as you want. I mean, I just thought it would kind of finish it off. And once this is dry, I'm also going to sand this back as well, so that I can see if I can get any of the yellow to reveal through this. It is nearly, believe it or not, finished. It was just a small piece, but to be honest with you, it's still taking 2 days. I mean, I went out this afternoon. I wasn't at it solidly today. I mean, I wasn't, but the thing is, I'm going to do a video on time painting, how long things actually take to paint, how much money is involved with your time. People don't value their time. They put the money on their piece, what they've spent on it, but they very rarely think about the time, and that's really important. So I'm just going to get a smaller brush because I want to take this a little bit closer into here, but I think you get what I'm trying to do here. I'm kind of distressing it with the darks and the lights, sometimes maybe going back a little bit more into the brown and the black, so that they're kind of, it's discolored. And that's what I'm going to do around this rim. Then I'm going to sand it back. I'm going to seal it. What am I going to seal it with today? I am going to seal it with a matte varnish, not my French chic. I'm going to put something a little bit more heavy duty on this, because if you had a summer house or you were outside and you wanted to put this outside, and if it was reasonably sheltered, then 2 coats of a heavy duty outdoor varnish. It's a non-shiny one, but it still gives it a slight shine. I don't know why, but it's matte. I'm going to give it a coat of that. It's a Ronseal varnish that I'm going to be using, our outdoor varnish. So this is it. This is how it looks. The next time you see this beautiful piece of furniture, we're all staged up and ready for me to go, well, what did we do? Okay. Okay, so we're finished. I sealed it with an outdoor sealer. It can go indoors as well, either or. As I said, it's matte, but I always think this one always looks slightly shiny, but I do know that it's a good outdoor one. There's no point me going into that because you're all in different countries. But a good outdoor sealer if you're wanting to have a piece. I wouldn't recommend this be outside in the elements, especially not in Scotland. But if you have a summer house or somewhere like that, I mean, I've sold furniture before for a lovely lady's summer house. So, you know, you could put things in. We've got one, you could put it in there. So, have I changed the use of it? Yeah, because I think originally it was probably more like a kind of writing desk, but I envisage this now in a kitchen or a hallway or an entry. It's kind of, that's always a good thing to do with your furniture, make it have multiple uses. What did we do? Today was about layering paint and distressing, and I think hopefully I've taken some of the mystery. Now this is just beginning layering. I mean, you can put more layers, different colours, apply your paint with different things, not just a brush and a cloth, and you can do lots of different things that also create different layers. And of course we haven't gone into layering with texture, not really. I mean, although you have seen me use texture in videos, I haven't really gone into that one and layering paint, but someday we'll do something like that. But I hope this kind of takes the mystery away from layering, and kind of you can go, right, okay, I can watch that, I know what I'm doing, I've got it licked. So that's really what it was. Once I'd layered the paint, stuck on some stamps, I did the stamp it, paint it, stamp it method. I tried to keep my palette very much in the reds and adds a little different colours of some of the darker colours of the darker green, just to kind of give a variation of the reds, and just shades of green, and to just give it a little bit of a break up, I put some white daisies and made these flowers pink. So that's it, really it. The inside of the drawer, I kept the turquoise, and it's all been distressed back, and I just simple staging for this one, nothing too complicated. So that's been it. I've been Lel from Made by Marley. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Martin, do you have anything to add about this piece?
No,
No?
another little cracking little project. I mean, I think you really outdid yourself with your paint it, stamp it, paint it, stamp it technique on this one, actually.
He came back and he went, ooh. So I think always Martin gets a little bit stressed at the sanding back and distressing. You can almost, you know, but I think that if you've put a lot of age.
There's been so many times where I've come in and gone, oh, that is gorgeous, darling. That is the nicest thing you've ever done. And she goes, uh-huh. And then she takes a sander to it. And I'm like, ah!
I think the thing about it is if you're creating a crisp look, then I wouldn't. But if you're layering paint, distressing and aging furniture, and this is all crisp, but then it's a piece of furniture of two halves, and you've got to remember that, you know, you have to have a little element. And plus, I wanted to reveal the yellow underneath because that's one of the reasons why we put it there in the first place, to make sure it would come back out. And just remember, layering also changes the colour of your paint. So that's another thing that you're doing as well. It's just not just for the reveal. Well, that's it. That's all I'm going to say on layering. We will see you next Sunday. If you've liked this video, give us a like, give us a share, give us a thumbs up. If you watch me regularly and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Please. And if you leave a comment, sorry, I've lost my train of thought there. If you leave, this is going badly wrong now. If you leave a comment, I'll get back to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.